really
I'll mention it to Heather right now.
just to protect us.
I won't be here for that. Otherwise, as far as the goals, $5 and that, I told him to put Sean in that. Well, you can serve resolution on possible animal and that'd be my priority we probably have as far as that goes. It's been brought up at state level before. It's never went anywhere. So that's what they want to do.
You gave him the statute? I'm going to go too. Perfect.
Wondering, I mean, if they approve it, and that can he make a motion and that approve it as long as they comply.
Did you give him his instructions?
I can't wait.
Just something so that there's a condition for the approval.
I think so. Because then we have that in the minutes. That might be really good way to do that, and then I can explain it.
I would prefer to do it that way because then it just makes it crystal clear.
It just makes it tell them that, because otherwise, maybe the town would be really nice to me in November. And that because they're like, oh, as soon as they get this, then when they come back, and then we're going to take
I'll look at that agenda item really quick, and then I can write down on here like what you mentioned. Maybe you can say.
Perfect.
Okay, I'll do that right now. Thanks, Jason.
Yep, you bet.
Gives me a
Thing is, like, start working on it. They say, well, we'll allow you to do it initially that you're on these policies or something. That's enough.
But now through all their stormwater, I told him engineering fees and that, and these towns are not shy in taking and marrying or to consult with Stantec or something like that, and then billing their fees back. And so I'd be concerned for that you brag of $40,000.
See them do it.
Well, it's almost 5 o'clock. So
Thank you. You bet, no problem. Good afternoon, everyone. It is 5 o'clock on Tuesday, December 3rd, and I'd like to call to order the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors. And we do not have anyone for our invocation today, so if you would join me in standing for a moment of silence, I would appreciate it. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And as for roll call, I believe that we are all accounted for with the exception of Supervisor Osnes, who I had not heard from. Supervisor Shirley and Lind, I believe, are joining us virtually, and Supervisor Hanson is excused.
Supervisor Barcolo needs to sign.
And if you haven't signed in yet, now would be a really good time to do so. Okay, while you're signing in, let's go ahead and move ahead with public comment. I do have one sheet from Dean Fireweather. Dean, would you like to address the board, please?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Dean Fairweather. I'm the chairman for the town of Springfield. I've been on the town board 14 of the past 16 years. The last 6 years as the chairman. I'm retired after protecting and serving St. Croix County for 24 years with the St. Croix County Sheriff's Department. I'm here to inform or request assistance, whichever, from the county board or from whomever will listen. The town of Springfield, along with the towns of Baldwin, Katy, O'Galley, are encountering non-compliant Amish communities. As I say that, I am not here to run the communities out. I am just asking for help for compliance. I am here only for the town of Springfield, and I am not going to speak on the other townships. The town of Springfield adopted county ordinances several years back. Some of the issues we are having: non-compliant with state applications for obtaining permits for building a residence, non-compliant for inspections, non-compliant with sanitary permits. Our board and our inspector have written many letters to these Amish property owners to gain compliance, but in return we cannot comply because of religious reasons. This is not the issue. There is a waiver by the state that they can sign up for that relieves them from some of the state laws that they have to abide from: plumbing, electrical. The rest of it they have to comply with. Sawmills are being built on residential property and not on commercial property, and they refuse to zone their property correctly. These sawmills are transporting lumber in and out on a daily basis. In one situation, we actually wrote a letter to the landowner because he built more buildings to help his business out. He was told he could not, and that the blueprint needed to go to the state because it was a commercial building, to get instruction from the state and to get it okayed. He replied back that he is Amish and does not have to follow those directions because of his religious beliefs. I don't know how many of these have been sent or forwarded to our community development for assistance. We had a meeting once about this. And I'm still seeing no compliance. However, other people within our township are receiving letters based on ordinance violations, which even fit into: you have a camper on your property and it cannot be there because you're in violation of an ordinance. This fits the same as the Amish. They should have to be able to permit every piece of property or residence they have there. I started my research to find out case law on this, to see what other counties, states, you name it, have Amish or fought the Amish within some type of court system. I did find out Eau Claire County did file a lawsuit and won it. So there is case law on this stating that religious reasons are not all part of it, that there is some compliance. I also realized as I reviewed some of this, a name popped out through my years of law enforcement, and that is that our corporate counsel attorney, Heather Amos, was part of that Eau Claire County situation. I know this is a lot of information. I need 3 hours to talk, but I only have 3 minutes, and I'm not even going to be close to touching on my part of it, not alone the other 3 townships. I'm asking for help from the county. I'm asking if a committee can be set up, if you can talk to us, government officials at the township level, to find out what's going on. It is a cumbersome thing because, as the ordinance reads, every day they violate, we write a citation. They haven't complied yet. How many days is that? How many hours? How many attorney fees does that add up? That a township like ours, who has no revenue other than taxes, we have $59,000 to our name for road construction, and that's all that's left over. The rest has been set aside for attorney fees and other bills to be paid. We can't do this. The only way for us to do it is not cite them and to let it continue. And is that fair to the rest of St. Croix County when other people have to pay for permits, have to be inspected, and go through the letters that they do? I am asking for your help. Thank you.
Other public comment? Anyone else wish to address the board? Public comment? Public comment, and that will do it for public comment. I believe the next item is our consent agenda. Do we have a motion regarding consent agenda? Motion to approve by Supervisor Burning. Supervisor Barkalow, second. And I believe that is everybody signed in? Join the meeting?
Yes, everybody has.
Okay, and we're ready to vote on the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Waiting for video source, please stand by.
This is what you can say. Motion to amend resolution by adding July 21, as long as the town of St. Joe complies with this. So after someone makes a motion in a second, then you can make this motion to amend.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Supervisor Lynn, can you hear us?
I have no way to vote, but I'm pretty sure I signed in.
Okay, I don't believe that you've joined the meeting.
Okay,
There's a manual.
let me try again.
Use your microphone.
Lisa, there should be a manual vote button if you don't see something pop up. Yeah, the e-vote button. Do you see an e-vote button? If you don't see that, I can take a verbal vote from you. Oh, there she goes.
Okay, the motion to approve the consent agenda is passed unanimously. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to our annual department reports, starting out with our judicial circuit court judges. Who do we have the honor of seeing today?
Judge Black, I heard some chuckles back here already, so bear with me. But again, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I'm speaking on behalf of myself, Presiding Judge Needham, Judge Waterman, and Judge Nordstrom. I think everybody here is familiar with the story about Cinderella. And part of Cinderella, this is a true story, as you know, is that towards the end, at midnight, the carriage turned to a pumpkin. Well, on July 31st of next year, my carriage turns to a pumpkin when I retire. And having said, you know, even though I'm going to retire, I like to think I will not be losing my appeal. So think about that. I'm sorry. I had to throw that, you know, this is my last chance. But bear with me. I have to say some public thank you. So first of all, to our district court administrator and his staff, thank you very much. To our judicial assistants, to their staff, to the register and probate, her staff, to our courtroom clerks, our court reporters. Oh, this is cool. I like this. To the clerk of court again, justice support, their staff, and to Commissioner Heckman, Family Court Commissioner Dunlap, our thank you. And again, justice support and their staff, I'm going to come back to that one again. But I got some other thank yous, and bear with me, because I'm a former volunteer firefighter. So I want to publicly thank all first responders, firefighters, law enforcement, and EMS. But I want to thank the first responders for the first responders. Anybody know who that is? I think somebody in this room might know. Those are the people in the bowels of this building, actually the old building, St. Croix County Emergency Dispatch. They get calls every hour, if not every minute of the day, from people who are not having a good day. And how they do it, I don't know. And as a volunteer firefighter, I had a lot of communication with them, no pun intended. But and often they're on the phone helping save somebody's life. And again, I want to thank them for what they do, because it's a very thankless job. Other persons in the trenches. In the trenches, I mean, these are people who deal with the public every single day, day in and day out. And I'm talking about staff at Human Services, adult protection, juvenile protection, juvenile supervision, victim witness, diversion program, probation agents. They don't get a lot of thanks, but I see them in court often. And again, we as judges have a very good job. I don't have to go out to those trenches and deal with everybody. I see them in the courtroom and we deal with that. But those people deal with them every single day in the trenches, and I want to thank them. If there's somebody else I forgot, I apologize. So you all know I got white hair. I came to Hudson in June of 1974, fresh out of law school. I've been raised in Northern Illinois, had no desire to go back there. And I'm one of the few people, I think, in the county who had a chance to participate in court hearings in the very old courthouse at 904 3rd Street, built in 1900. Then, later, I participated in thousands of hearings in the courthouse built in 1965, which we call the old courthouse. I was also able to preside and participate in hearings in the new government center when it opened in 1993, and then after 2001 as a judge. I'm looking forward to being able to participate in those hearings and preside in hearings as a judge once the new courtrooms are opened up next spring. And I'm looking forward to that. In 1974, we had one county judge and a part-time circuit judge. The crime that I remember seeing primarily was possession of marijuana. You had some theft of skis at then the local ski establishments. You had some physical altercations and some burglaries. And what we see now runs the gamut, sadly, and everybody knows that. In the last 2 years, I leave the courthouse thinking, you cannot make this stuff up. And it's sad to say that, but that's the reality. Many years ago, I had a justice from the Supreme Court say, as judges, the work we do is like peeling the layers of an onion. The longer you work, the more layers you peel, the smellier it gets. In the past 50 years, I've learned we will never eradicate substance abuse. We will never eradicate child abuse. We will never eradicate physical abuse. We will never eradicate criminal activity. That's just the reality. However, we have better tools to determine who do we need to focus on for services and who do we need to focus on for punishment. And for example, we have better assessment tools to see who needs services. Ever hear the phrase ACE score? ACE stands for Adverse Childhood Experience. Based upon evidence, and this was in a weight loss study, we now know, based upon the adverse child experiences people had as a child, are they going to be prone to substance abuse, mental health issues, criminal activity, etc. We also have lethality assessments that are conducted by law enforcement on scene in domestic cases. And I want to publicly thank Chief Rickard from North Hudson and Turning Point because they spearheaded this to get it done. We have domestic abuse assessments to determine are people valid persons for a domestic violence court. We have AOD assessments for persons to see should they be in Judge Norstrand's treatment court. I want to tell you that those persons needing punishment are held accountable. And if you don't believe that, go to the jail, ask them what my nickname is. I won't tell you what it is, go ask them. From my perspective, people who commit crimes are in one of the following categories, and there are others, but they're bad people, and trust me, they're bad people. They're crimes of opportunity. They think, hey, I won't get caught. They have physical control issues or aggression. And then we have the people who are desperate, either because of poverty, just the lives they've lived, what they've put up with in a younger age. And I think about this. I would guess everybody in this room, in front of me and behind me, we have good jobs. We have a nice place to live. We have a nice car. We're not worried about where our meal is going to come tonight or tomorrow. People I see and what we see in the courtrooms are people who may be homeless. They're not sure where they're going to be staying tonight. They got a car that's being held together by wire and duct tape. They're not sure where the next meal is going to come from. I often say to my staff, there's individuals who leave my courtroom and I say, and this is especially single mothers, I do not have the resources or the services they need. And it's very frustrating to me. So this is where I get back to the justice support. For many years, and I've been doing this judge stuff since 2001, I have begged and wished for somebody who can help me provide services and get services to people who need them. Most recently, that role fell to a woman by the name of Kara Albart. She's been a godsend for me. And what she does is that she assists the people who need services how to get them. Most of the people who are in the criminal justice system, most, are there for the first time. They have no idea what's going on. Often we as judges don't have the time to explain what's going on to them. Remember what I said, we will never eradicate substance abuse, child abuse, physical abuse, nor criminal activity? You might ask, well, if that's the case, why should we do anything for people who are charged with criminal offenses? There's two reasons. Because they're presumed innocent for the first thing, and also, have you ever heard of the starfish story? Anybody? Got some nod on the heads. Here's the basic story. Young boy's on the beach, tide is going out. Man sees a boy throwing something in the ocean and says, "What are you doing?" And the boy says, "I'm throwing starfish back into the ocean so they live." And the man looks on the beach and says, "There are thousands of starfish here. You're not going to make a difference." Boy picks up one starfish, throws it in the ocean. I just made the difference in the life of that starfish. As judges, that's what we do every single day and try to do. So what does the future bring? Not only for judges, but for the county. We have internet. And at my age, it reminds me when I grew up with TV. It was a great thing. Well, then obviously, it became the boob tube. Well, we have the same aspects with regard to the internet. Some good things, some bad things. Social media, X, anything goes. And that's filtered into our culture, including the courtrooms. I'm not sure if anybody is aware that yesterday the House Select Subcommittee on the coronavirus pandemic issued a 520-page report on what was done wrong, what was done right during the pandemic. And it also said, here are the problems we're going to see in the future. At this point, we have only seen the tip of the iceberg of what ramifications we're going to have from the pandemic, not only in our county, but in our state and country. How do we deal with this? Luckily, years ago, Judge Enum spearheaded the efforts to create a Community Justice Collaborating Council. And this is a group of people who meet, and they're all players in the justice system to try to figure out how do we deal with these problems, how do we best solve them. And what I like is that everybody walks in the room, we check our egos at the door and say, let's get down to business. So finally, I look around this room and say, nice new digs. But in all sincerity, the north wing is great. This wing is great. I look forward to the completion of the courtrooms and the clerk court provisions in the first floor of the old, second floor for the district attorney's office. And I have one final thank you. And that's to all of you, because I've been doing this 50 years and seen construction projects. To all of you, and especially Mr. Witt, thank you for doing it right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Court Commissioner, Steve.
It's hard to follow Ed Black, but I've been following Judge Black all my life, it seems. When he became judge, I became family court commissioner. And before that, I practiced privately in St. Croix County and other counties. But now as family court commissioner, I want to explain a little bit of what I do. I handle all the pre-judgment and post-judgment actions, or most of them. And that is when people have children or when they're getting divorced or separated, they file an action in court and they come to me first. So, as Family Court Commissioner, I'm also the Director of Family Services. And when parents can't agree on what's best for their children, the first thing that I do is send the parents to mediation. And the first mediation session is paid for by St. Croix County. It comes out of their filing fee. And we feel so strongly that the parents should be able to work these things out themselves that we have them go to mediation. And I ordered mediation to take place over 240 times this past year. They go to mediation, they work out an agreement, hopefully, and their agreement then becomes a court order. If they can't work out an agreement, then the next step before we can make a decision on placement is the appointment of a guardian ad litem. And this past year, I have appointed over 50 attorneys as guardian ad litem in cases. So, and that doesn't even count what the judges appoint in their hearings. Guardian ad litems are attorneys. They're expensive. And our policy is that before we appoint a guardian ad litem, each parent needs to come up with $2,000. That's impossible for some of these parents. And yet, that's what the deal is. And we sometimes approve payment schedules for them. But we need, and the law says that before the courts can make a decision on placement and custody, the court has to have a guardian ad litem make a recommendation. The guardian ad litem does an investigation, comes back, makes a recommendation to the parties. This is what I think you as parents should do. Parents don't agree with that, then the guardian ad litem makes a recommendation to the court. And after a hearing, the court says what's best for these children. It's not a perfect system by any means. But that's what we do, that's what the judges do, that's what I do on a temporary basis, that's what the judges do on a permanent basis. And then after the final hearing, if they still have problems, we do it all over again. I want to thank you as the Board of Supervisors for the support that you've given my office, the support that you've given our staff, and it's, every year I come in here and say, I wish I could say that I don't need to be employed anymore, but I like what I do. I think I can make a difference in families. And that's what it's all about. So, thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, register and probate. One more. Not quite done, sorry.
That's okay. I don't know if I'm butting in or not, but I'm Judge Nordstrand, and I'm the presiding judge of our treatment court. Many of you know about treatment court, and for those few of you who at this point haven't been to see treatment court, you're welcome to come at 8:30 tomorrow morning, right down the hall, and you'll see a graduation at the end of that process. And if you stay longer, you'll see a termination hearing as well. So we have both. We have successes and we have folks that are not as successful. We'll see how that goes tomorrow. But that's the way it is with treatment court. And so for those of you who don't understand, or don't know a lot about treatment court, the short answer is there are folks who, but for treatment court and a judge sentencing them to treatment court, or the Department of Corrections sending them to treatment court as an alternative to being revoked from probation, they come to treatment court and participate in about 18-month process through 4 different phases to address their substance issues, to address their criminal thinking, to address their housing issues, their employment issues, their what are we going to do when we're done with treatment court and how do we stay sober issues. All these things, we try to address the whole person, and it's time consuming. And we have a lot of folks that help us from all the departments. Kate Brewer, of course, our treatment court coordinator, and Kayla, her case manager as well. We have representatives from the DA's office, from the Public Defender's office, from Department of Corrections, from treatment, and who am I forgetting? I think that's it. So we have all these folks who work together as a team to try to help people make it to change. Now, we don't have a lot of people in this. Right now we have 13, and so we're looking for more. In fact, we had a luncheon right down the hall, or down, which way? Upstairs. We had a luncheon upstairs in that lovely new room today to try to encourage attorneys to refer people to treatment court. And so, but that's not to say it, we do have some issues, and I wanted to give you an overview of treatment court and then just tell you a couple of highlights of things that are challenges that we have. And that is, aside from the recruitment issues, which I think we can continue to work on, of making sure we get up to about 25 people is what I think we could do. That would be a maximum. We're at 13, as I said. We have treatment issues itself, and we've talked a little bit about this here, I think, with the county board before, the whole idea of how do we get the treatment for the people that need the treatment. And we use Programs for Change, a local organization here with Health Partners who provides our treatment right now. And our biggest challenge right now is we're getting a lot of folks that need inpatient treatment. So part of what we do, since we serve the most highest risk and highest need individuals with substance use and criminal activity, occasionally the professionals say they need inpatient. Well, we don't have inpatient here in the county that we can get access to, and so the only real way we can get people into inpatient treatment who need it is through the Department of Corrections. Since they're all on probation, we can get them into the Farman Center, but it takes 2 months. So we're waiting 2 months to get folks into treatment. And of course, that's a long time. It's just the way it is. And there's nothing this county board can do to solve that problem, but I want you to understand that is a problem. And I'll give you one bright spot to finish that thought, and that is our whole treatment court team got invited to go over to Hazelden Betty Ford at Center City, Minnesota. I don't know if you all know what that is, but I'm a graduate of Hazelden of two different times many years ago, and I'll finish by talking about that. But we went to Hazelden, and Hazelden and Betty Ford is the center of the known universe in terms of 30-day recovery programs. The whole idea of a 30-day recovery program using the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous began in Center City, Minnesota in the 40s. So every 30-day program that exists anywhere on this planet started there. So these people know what they're doing, and here's the news. They're coming to Hudson. So Hazelden Betty Ford is opening a facility for outpatient treatment in Hudson, down by the Aldi's store in one of those bank buildings. They got a whole floor, I'm told, and they're coming to Hudson. So that's going to be a positive to create another opportunity for treatment here in our community. And that's good not just for treatment court, but that's great for all of the judges and all of the referrals we make for those AODA assessments, alcohol and other drug abuse assessments, and to follow through with treatment recommendations. Well, if you don't have treatment providers, it's hard to follow through with treatment recommendations, and so that's great news. The last thing I wanted to tell you was a little bit about the personal side of treatment court. And that is, within the last year or so, I remember a young man who was in treatment court, and he was one of these guys who was just so happy all the time. And you always just looked forward to seeing him. And, you can kind of be lulled into complacency a little bit with some of the folks. They look like they're doing good. You think they're doing good. Their tests are okay. We're making progress. And then one day he came in and he was all banged up. And I said, what happened? And he said, well, I have to ride my bike to work in Richmond, and I got in an accident. A car hit me or something. It sounded horrific. And I said, didn't you have a helmet? And he said, no, I don't have a helmet. So I thought, well, I got a helmet. Maybe I should ride the bike myself, right? But in any case, so I went home, and the next time I saw him, I gave him a helmet, and I got a picture of myself, my arm around him. Here's a judge giving you a bike helmet, and he had the helmet on. That was the last time I ever saw the guy. And the sad tale is that he went back out, as they say, and wound up in a motorcycle accident and died on the freeway here in our county. So I've got a picture of him. That picture's, on my desk. Now, for a happier story, and more recently, I was invited to participate in Pin Night at the Richmond Alano Club. Does anybody know what a Pin Night is? Come on. No? Okay, a lot of amateurs here when it comes to AA. Well, that means is if you've been sober for a period of time, 30 days, 1 day, 45 days, a year, you get a coin. For some reason they call them pins, I don't know why, but they're a coin, and it has the number of days or years on it that you've earned. And I'm in recovery and have been for a little over 17 years, and so I got invited to speak at the speaker meeting. Now, this is kind of an odd thing for a judge, because a lot of the people in the audience you might have seen somewhere else in this county. And it didn't really occur to me exactly at the time that I said, yes, I'd go, but I did. And I went to this Alano Club. When I got there, it's right across from the Richmond Health Center, or not the health center, the rehab center. In any case, I got there, the entire parking lot was full, and then the whole parking lot across the street was full, and I thought, what the heck is going on? Well, they'd all heard the judges coming to speak. There were 250 people in this room, and I gave a talk about the book I wrote about the 12 steps, because it's part of the process, my process of recovery and working with my sponsor. And it was a great honor to do that. But what was interesting about it was it ended with the pins and all the pins, and it went on for an hour of all the people. A lot of people from my treatment court getting their medallions for their coins, and then at an appropriate time, a member of our treatment court gave me my 17-year coin. So there's good and there's bad about treatment court, and I'm sorry for going on a little bit, but I wanted you all to get a sense of what treatment court does for this county, and an opportunity to come and see it tomorrow, if you'd like. If you've got questions, I'd be happy to take them. All right.
Any questions? Thank you. Okay, now are we ready for register and probate?
Good evening, County Supervisors. I'm Rebecca Rowan, your Register and Probate and Clerk of Juvenile Court. I'm happy to be here this evening to address you. By and large, 2024 has been a year of maintaining the status quo. You have my report in your agenda packet, and that includes case statistics and highlights department achievements. This year, we took advantage of training opportunities, and we've been very busy preparing for our move by scanning documents that have long retention periods. We've also been reorganizing our remote storage files. If you've been upstairs to the Register and Probate office recently, you know that our office already looks different and we haven't even moved yet. To that end, I specifically wish to thank you for your foresight in the first floor renovation project. Our office will greatly benefit from the new layout, especially in terms of serving the public. You might not know, but many of the clients that we serve have special needs or disabilities, and many come in large family groups. The new space includes public-facing counters with accommodations that will really enhance the level of service that my staff can provide. This is essential and directly in line with the county's mission statement. As always, it's my honor to serve the citizens of St. Croix County, and I want to be short and sweet this evening, no tales about snowmen like last year, but I'm here and happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions, Supervisor Rice?
Yes, I just have a question about on the report, if we scroll down to where it says case statistics, I'm seeing a decline in several of them, child protection, and I realize it's only 11 months, but several of the numbers are reporting temporary physical custody. Is that an anomaly, or was last year a particularly challenging one?
We've seen a decline in child protection cases and temporary physical custodies across the state, but we've also seen an increase in complexity. So it is two sides of a same coin.
Any other questions? Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to our county administrator's report.
Yeah, the report is in the packet along with all the financial data. I did have one leftover joke from Thanksgiving, if it's not too stale. But that's not even the joke. What side of a turkey has more feathers? The outside. Any other questions on my monthly report?
Okay, I think we're going to move on.
All right.
All right, we're going to start with our business items. The first item is the initial resolution authorizing the issuance of $7.5 million in general obligation promissory notes. And do we have a motion for this? I believe there's a resolution. Supervisor Otino, motion to approve? Is that correct? Yes. Okay. And a second, Supervisor Leith. And we have with us tonight Sean Lentz from Ehlers. Welcome, Sean. He's going to walk us through a little bit of this process.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and nice to see everyone this evening. We put together with Ken and county staff's assistance a pre-sale report for the financing that was just opened up for discussion here this evening, the issuance of $7.5 million in general obligation promissory notes. We discussed this with finance a couple weeks ago now, I think, in introducing the topic to them. And so I'd like to go through the material with the county board. And where I think I'd like to start, Ken, if we could go to the exhibits, I think it usually is the best spot to highlight the main points of the discussion. There we go. Thank you. So I think as the board members are aware, as a part of your 2025 budget, you have a capital improvement or KIP list that you dealt with, and there's multiple funding sources for that, those projects, and included in that is a $7.5 million financing. The primary project that was to be included for long-term financing is the Highway Department annexed or secondary building. So that makes up the largest portion of the $7.5 million. In working with Ken on the repayment schedule for the debt issue, the maximum term that we can go over for a general obligation issue like this is 20 years. And so we've put together a 20-year repayment schedule for the notes. The process would be, as we've done with debt issues like the remodeling of this building, is we would solicit in the future competitive bids and bring that back for final review by the county board to authorize and lock into interest rates and into the financing. The intent would be to lock into a fixed interest rate solution for 20 years. The first 8 years of the 20 years would not be prepayable, but starting in the 8th year through the 20th year, should the county board, through recommendations from Ellers and from the staff, feel like it makes sense to pay it off early using cash or potentially refinancing if lower interest rates available, those options would be available starting in year 8 through year 20. The schedule you see here, again, is a projection of the 20-year repayment, and it uses interest rates that are about 50 basis points or 0.5% above current market conditions. In fact, I was going to mention, we did sell a debt issue somewhat similar to this today, a 20-year issue. I think it was a little bit less, about $5.5 million. And the interest rate that they got on that issue was 3.5%. The true interest rate you see here at the 3.95%, not quite 50 basis points difference, but the county is double A1 rating, and the community that sold today was an A1 rated. So you're significantly higher in rating, and so I think these are a good representation of the market plus a 50%. We might even be a little conservative with where the current market conditions are. Okay, Ken, if we can go to the next exhibit. Just real briefly, the state limits the borrowing capacity to use general obligation borrowing for the county to 5% of the equalized value of the county. The red line at the top of Exhibit 2 is the capacity for St. Croix County. You can see just below 900 million. The green bars at the bottom are representative of the existing debt that the county has already approved in the past and the new proposed $7.5 million issue. So what you can see here is that historically, you've used this very conservatively, and you have an overwhelming amount of capacity should you ever need it. I don't see ever using this. And even with a very large legacy type project, which is the building here, which the financing was $80 million, you can see that that's really the bulk of this issue, of the total indebtedness that the county has outstanding. Okay. The other way, and really the more important impact-related discussion we like to have and want to have, of course, when debt is being considered, is what's the impact on the debt levy for the county for future years. What you see in Exhibit 3, the blue bars are representative of debt that the county has authorized in the past, and the principal and interest payments on that debt out through 2042, where the current existing debt of the county would be fully extinguished. On top of the blue bars are the proposed new repayment of the $7.5 million issue over the next 20 years. And what I'd really like to highlight here is you'll notice that the debt payments gradually over time go down. That's by design. As I know Ken's talked with you in the past as a group, your capital improvement plan is not just 1 year, it's looking out into the future. And this design is set up to hopefully allow for some wrapping of new debt should the county board decide the capital projects need to be financed and need to be completed in the future, and somewhat wrapped around the existing debt of the county, all trying to manage the overall tax impact, debt impact on the county's taxpayers. Okay. And finally, Exhibit 4, we looked just, focused in on just the impact on taxes if we took the previous slide with the blue bars and then the green bars on top and said that if everything else in the county stays exactly the same, so all your other expenses, your revenue, all is the same, and all we do is issue the debt, and that's the only change from your 2025 budget to your 2026 budget. What would the impact be on different equalized value properties in the county? And so this chart, if I was a county resident and I had a $300,000 property, the impact of this financing with all the assumptions I mentioned, meaning everything else stays the same, you don't make any decisions to lower expenses or budgets in any other areas, you don't make any decisions to raise it. For me as a $300,000 equalized value property owner, the impact would be $7.98 from the 2025 to 2026. But as was discussed with the Finance Committee, There are many other aspects that you'll discuss when setting that final levy. We just wanted to give you an exhibit that if we look just at the debt, what would that look like from one year to the next if everything else stayed exactly the same? Okay. And finally, Ken, if we could go back to the timeline, I'd like to finish there before any questions. Tonight is an introduction of the planned finance report and plan going forward for 2025, and the approval of the initial resolution, which just gives the authorization to proceed at some point in 25 with the financing. We're expecting, in working with Ken, that as we get into the April, early May timeframe, we will be really ramping up the process of issuing the debt. And that coincides, as I understand, with the project construction and numbers you're going to start seeing on the bid side for those projects. The idea being that all the documentation and compliance work that has to be done to issue debt by the county will occur late April, early May. We will also go through the process of renewing the county board's bond rating, which is an excellent AA1, one step below the highest AAA. We'll still be aspiring to that, and we'll make our case again to Moody's, the rating agency. More to come back to the county board on that. The idea would be middle to late May, the disclosure document called the official statement would be sent out to prospective bidders, both in the area as well as all around the country. And that would all lead up to, at your meeting on June 3rd, the morning of the 3rd, we would take competitive bids for the financing, and then I will come and discuss the results of those bids with the board that evening. Assuming that we have a very favorable result, you'd be asked to approve a resolution finalizing the financing at that June meeting. And then late June, early July, we're estimating somewhere around July 15th would be the closing date or the funding date where the county would have cash in hand. So the thought was to give you the big picture plan going forward at the December meeting this year. We'll keep everybody up to date if we see anything dramatic occurring in the interest rate environment that may change our plans. But as we see things right now, this would be the path forward to issue the debt again in the middle of this year, or coming year in 2025. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd put it back with any questions.
Questions? Supervisor Cowder.
Thank you. If you go back on Exhibit 3, I think one of the things that we had during the administration meeting was on the bump on 2026, and Ken, maybe you can help me with that a little bit, but we were looking to level that out so that we won't really necessarily see a increase in the levy for this project because of how kind of manipulated the payments. If you can help me out with that, Ken, thank you.
Yeah, correct. The direction that the admin committee had given me is they want level payments. And so while you're going to see that first payment, the payment's already level between 25 and 26, the two blue bars. So there's an interest payment, if nothing else, that's due in 2026 when you borrow in 25. But what we'll do is we'll apply cash fund balance to level that off. That's a number that's manageable enough. That should be an easy enough task for us to accomplish, but that'll be done as part of the 2026 budget process. But just know those are the instructions I had. That's the plan going forward. But really, when you look at it from a debt perspective, the debt payment will be higher, but the tax levy for the debt will be level.
Other questions? Any other questions for Sean? All right, thank you, Sean. Appreciate
Yes.
your insight. We do have a motion on the floor to approve the initial resolution authorizing the issuance of the promissory notes, and we're ready to vote. Okay, the motion is passed unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Sean. I did have a request from the supervisor to modify our agenda for the business items and move up the exercise to prioritize the legislative agenda. Would anyone have a problem if we switched and did that particular business item first and then wrap up with the final three? We're switching number 5 to number 2, and then we would continue with 2, 3, and 4. Does anyone have any issues or any problems with that reshuffling a little bit? I'm sure Supervisor Burning's children would greatly appreciate that. It's the time of year for concerts and whatnot. Okay, so given that, I guess I'm going to call on Allison Sauter. Allison, would you like to give us some instruction on how we're going to approach this?
Yeah, I kind of hate that I have to look at myself in this screen right here, but yes, thank you. And thanks, Supervisor Burning. You must just be really excited to get up on your feet and do some prioritization. So good evening. Thank you all for having me be here this evening. Thanks to Administrator Witt for inviting me to help you all work through some prioritization of the 90 legislative agenda items that you have from the Wisconsin Counties Association. So it's my understanding you all have this already. You've had some time to review. My role this evening is to be an unbiased, super neutral facilitator, that I have no skin in the game on these other than I am a county resident, but interested to see where you all land and where this process takes you. So again, we are reviewing these legislative items. You are going to prioritize them down to between 4 and 6, whichever we can nail down. And these then will be your agenda as you meet with legislators on the Hill when you go to Madison for Hill Day. Are you all familiar with that? Okay. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, if it's all right with everyone, we're going to take a few moments, let you review, recap what you are wishing to put forth and nominate as your recommendation for one of the legislative agenda items that should be considered a top priority. So Administrator Witt noted in his memo that there are some that have been highlighted from department heads, is my understanding, but really want you to consider all of them. And while you are reviewing them, consider what is a top priority for you as an elected official, your constituents, what will have the biggest impact in the county, and what might our elected officials see highest value and action moving forward with those items. So any questions on what we're going to do right now, and that is take a few moments to review, and then we will do a quick wraparound, give everyone an opportunity if they would like to nominate an agenda item.
I do have a question for you.
Sure.
Will we have the opportunity to ask department heads questions? So,
Yes.
for example, I noticed, I think there was a couple on transportation, for example, and both sounded great, but I was like, well, if I had to pick one, which one is going to have a bigger impact?
Sure.
So,
again, my understanding is yes. That's what our lovely people are here to assist with this evening. So yes, we have some opportunity for questions.
Supervisor Fiedler?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I contacted the WCA when this became an agenda item and asked them what their priorities were within that list of 90 resolutions. And they basically came back with there are 4 areas that they'd like to prioritize. And they had a couple of specifics. For example, one of them was deals with the same thing we have a resolution on later tonight, and that is the court funding, where the counties would get more courts. That was one of their priorities. The other priority was what's listed on our screens right now under agriculture, environment, and land use as number 1. And the reasoning for that was that right now the base funding for that is about $9 million. They're asking for $20 million, round numbers, and they want that to be established as the base. So that was another one of the WCA priorities. The other 2 were rather general things. One was the general category of mental health, and we have, of course, a number of resolutions that deal with mental health across the board, but they don't break them out. They just say mental health. And the other item was transportation, again, very generally stated, because there's many, many items within transportation. So I just thought I'd share that with the group to reflect that our county, our state organization would say court funding, increase in county land conservation and staffing, transportation generally, and mental health generally. Thanks.
Any other questions, Supervisor Birding?
Yeah, it's a combination question statement, but my first question is, so if we're doing this as through the WCA, what we saw a couple years ago with the revenue share when we said, hey, fix the revenue share, and the WCA and League of Municipalities and a bunch of other organizations went down to Madison and said, fix the revenue share. We didn't really get very specific from this group what we wanted to see. And what ended up happening in that revenue share is our county specifically, because of the successes that we've had, are getting the short end of the stick in the rebate of that revenue share. Other counties get more from what they send down. We actually get less, and then a portion that we miss out on is reappropriated. I don't mind the fact that we're doing this exercise so that we can see how it comes from the angle of our county, but I also believe, Mr. Chair, and this is where my statement comes in, I believe that we need to have a session where we actually sit down as a group and talk about what we need as a county, set aside what maybe Southeast Wisconsin has coming through this as well, and see what our representatives need to push in Madison as our representatives. So I'll set that off to the side for now because we've got this to focus on, but I would really like to see that in addition to this. So thank you.
And I think part of the point of this exercise is for us to identify priorities so that we can work directly with our legislators as opposed to necessarily going through the WCA. Because WCA is going to have some different types of priorities based on different parts of the state. So we want to be able to go directly to our legislators and impress them on our priorities here in this part of the state. So that's part of why we're trying to do this exercise. We're just starting with the WCA priorities just to give us kind of that springboard, so to speak, of here are a variety of priorities that we can start with. But they need to be our priorities, not necessarily WCA. Burning, you have a nomination?
Yeah, so one of them is allow counties to retain a larger portion of the real estate transfer fee.
Number, if you just give us the number.
41.
41.
Yeah, and I know they did some work on this already, but I'd like specific to how it, like, I want us to be able to state how we want it done from our perspective, not just the counties association, but I know I made that point already.
I would also just note too that it's not an indication of which ones, right? There's no moral value attached to any of the legislative agenda items. So you're not prioritizing necessarily what you think the WCA should do, but so that you all, when you meet with elected officials, St. Croix County at least has a cohesive voice, right? So you don't have 3 supervisors talking about 10 agenda items, 2 others talking about 3 different ones. But I really appreciate that perspective of having some additional time to work through what's really critical for St. Croix County. Do not feel pressured to make a nomination right now. As you make nominations, they will be placed on the back wall, and then we will move into the second phase of the activity where you get to stand and move around a little bit.
Supervisor Telejohn.
I'd like to nominate number 68. 68.
Maybe it will be helpful. I can scroll down as well.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead. I will nominate number 71, which is the residential treatment facilities, which I believe is a fairly hot issue for our county. Supervisor Leaf.
I would like to nominate number 42 as it relates to the court costs and reimbursement.
Supervisor Rice.
I'd like to nominate number 1, increase funding for the county land conservation, staff and cost sharing. As Supervisor Fiedler mentioned, that as well as a top priority.
Supervisor Adams?
I'd like to nominate number 44, increase small claims filing fee for the courts.
Supervisor Van Summeren?
Thank you. I'd like to nominate two, number 23 and 25. They're very closely related, and I think they could be under one. Maintenance to the highway and investments, additional investments in the highway system. Thank you.
Is there opportunity to also allow folks online? Okay.
Yeah. Supervisor Shirley?
Yes, I would like to nominate number 18, county authority and renewable energy. You know, a lot of our larger renewable energy projects that come through our county, we're not able to have any say in because they go straight to the state, and I'd like to see that.
I think limited discussion. I think that we want to, I guess I would ask our facilitator.
Yeah, we would maybe limit it to about 30 seconds, in part because it's my understanding that there will be additional time once the resolution is put forth to maybe have some additional conversation. Sure. Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Leaf.
I would nominate number 64, which is fully funding ADRCs. Our increasing population really necessitates that, aging.
I'll add number 49 regarding treatment alternative programs. Supervisor Rice?
I'd also like to nominate number 90, Preserve Public Health Authority for the control of communicable diseases and other public health threats.
So we are at about 12 right now. We'd like to see maybe a max of 15.
I'm sorry, Supervisor Ramberg.
I'd like to nominate number 45 regarding expert witnesses coming on video rather than in person.
I'd like to add number 23 for general transportation road maintenance. Supervisor Leaf.
I would like to nominate number 49 for statewide implementation of diversion programs, so increasing funding there.
We have 49 on the board already.
Damn. Then you know which one I'm voting for.
Lovely. And Supervisor Shirley, do you still have your hand raised from before or another one?
No, I do have another one. Number 58.
So 58 is amending the tax deed process to ensure counties are reimbursed for all costs associated with the tax foreclosure process.
Supervisor Telejohn.
I'd like to nominate number 64 also.
Great. Well, it seems we may be approaching that capacity point, right? Now that we're starting to nominate some similar ones. Is there any last nomination? We will give 30 seconds, one more push if there's one that's really.
Point of clarification.
Supervisor Ramberg?
Point of clarification. Is this on? The difference between number 71 and 49.
71 is establishing psychiatric residential treatment facilities, and 49?
and 49, right. I thought they were the same in my book, but what was it? Yeah, treatment alternatives in 49. I didn't know which one was nominated first. I thought 71.
Court-related, and 71 would be.
Okay, thank you.
So maybe focus area where it would be what bucket?
Supervisor Leaf.
I had a question. We have been talking about, and we passed a resolution a couple meetings ago about increasing funding for out-of-state or out-of-county child placements, out-of-home placements, and I don't know if there's a number for that. I noticed that there's adult protective custody, but I don't see that. I know Bob's like leaping ahead to say something. Are you?
I think it might be 77. Fund the education costs in residential care centers. That's partially those out-of-home placement costs.
Bob says no.
No? Okay.
Please, take the floor.
I'm sorry. Thank you. That's part of it, Heather. There is no specific legislative agenda item that speaks to the residential treatment costs for kids in out-of-home care. The psychiatric residential treatment facilities is the closest thing on the agenda, or on the legislative agenda that fits that.
Well, I'll add that I think this is a start of this process, so we're going to try to refine the list. We'll have opportunities to talk about these priorities. Maybe we want to pull one off. We want to add one that's not on the list right now. So we'll have that opportunity to really further develop this list of priorities to make sure that it really fits our county. So this is not the end of this process. It's just the beginning.
Yeah, well,
That
we're gonna let
helps.
you sleep on it for a month, because we'll bring it back in the form of a resolution to formally adopt. So you really have a whole month to sort of think it over and make sure that's what you still want a month from now.
Post-holidays, right? I'll come back with fresh eyes.
So any other nominations? Okay.
All right.
Where do we go now?
Then I would invite you, well, actually, I'll invite Administrator Witt. Do you have the stickers? Or do I, oh my gosh, you already have all your stickers, great. So you have the opportunity now, we'll take about 10 minutes to let you get up. You will be able to place your 5, each of you have 5 stickers, correct? All right. You have the opportunity to divvy up your stickers however you would like on the priorities on the back windows. That means if you feel very strongly about one of the ideas, you can put all 5 stickers on there. You can spread it out, put 1 on 5, however you want to divvy up those stickers and make your voice heard. So this is your chance. You can have conversation. This is a great opportunity to ask questions, maybe get some clarification from folks or see where there might be alignment between some of them. And we'll take about 10 minutes and then we'll come back together and hopefully we don't have any ties.
Supervisor Shirley?
For Lisa and I, could you just give us a rundown of the numbers? Because I didn't get them all.
Yes. Can I put them in chat or just someone else? Okay, all right. I will put them in chat. All right.
You want me to call them all?
Yeah.
18, 23, 25, 41, 42, 44, 45, 49, 58, 68, 71, 64, and 90 is the last one.
Do you have any red stickers left?
All right, Supervisor Shirley and Lynn, do you see those numbers in the chat then there for you?
And they can reply in the chat and we'll mark them for them.
That will be perfect. So yes, and if you have questions for folks in the space, we can do that too. I'll figure out a way to make it work.
Do we have stickers? Like, no.
No, just the absence of a sticker. Hi, nice to see you. No, neither of us go to Rotary anymore. Do you need anything, and thanks again, it's just good to get some of this one. Do you need anything prepared? Do you want anything documented? Okay.
My question on that was the solar farm.
It's nice to see some.
We have no jurisdiction, we have
right?
no
Like,
control.
on a certain size,
we lose it, the state takes over.
You start to see some.
The town of Hudson, right now, it considers it as a garage. If your dimensions to the property line and if we gotta do something there. There's one on
We
Croix.
can't do anything, the state has to do it, but
Well,
this
we-
is what this is for. It's
Yeah,
to lobby the
that's
state.
that's why I put under that, the relating to the renewable energy.
Sure. Yep.
Oh my God. County Road ends,
There's lots of things.
just
And right there's
this
that
side
nice
of
room.
my house. There's that subdivision, the new one.
Yeah.
And very first street in, you can see it from County Road End as you drive by. Did you see, it's got like he's got like Baker 8 right on the front of his property. Two facing the neighbors.
Yeah, he wasn't so little anymore.
I would
Very
go
cool that
insane.
I served with Big Brothers
But
Big Sisters
that's
before going
me.
United Way, and then we did some housing, did an interview for housing with us.
Control
Yeah,
myself
it's
that
been
way.
good company. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now I'm on Westcat Ford Drive.
Great. Oh, and we've got some big shoes to fill with.
Well, we just had 4 interviews today for executive
Very
session.
nice.
Yeah,
Are you feeling good?
we got one rose to the top today, and we got 6 more next week,
Okay.
so.
Wow.
Yeah, we had a lot of responses.
Good.
Over 100 and some responses.
Oh, that's good. Good. And Todd Johnson is also on your board and a fellow extension folk.
Yeah.
So, good. Well, I'm glad
Supervisors
it's
Shirley and
promising.
Lind, have you made your selections? I don't see anything in the chat telling me how to vote for you. I have your stickers right here, though.
They're yellow.
Do you want them in the chat, Ken, or can I tell them to you?
In the chat might be easier, so I just mess it up between now and I get to the wall.
You want me to read them out? Oh, you can see them over there? That works out well. Thank you. We will get your dots on the right ones. It's very official.
I think if everybody's done with their stickers, we can probably get going a few minutes early, so.
And we've got Supervisor Lind in there as well.
Okay, we'll give you a couple more minutes.
Well, we'll just go ahead and tally them then. It looks like everyone has voted. Well, and double check my math too.
Yeah.
What's our second 12? Is 28.
23.
17. We have 2 10s.
I just did a presentation at a Lutheran church for XYZ, they call it one enrichment. Yeah, they call it extra years zest, extra years of zest. So it's everybody who's over 60 or something like that, they go in there, and then I talk to them about stuff like that. Lutheran church. It must be something because there was a pastor that I think was there too, also in the military or something. So it's wild. Yeah.
All right, we have tallied the dots and we have our top 6, which gives you some wiggle room, right? So in order, but there were 2 ties, so 23 and 17 tied with 12 votes. 45 and 18 tied with 10 votes. Oh, 71, my apologies. So 23 and 71. 45 and 18. And then 8 was 41. 41 had 8, and 42 had 7. So that is where your dots have fallen. Again, as Administrator Witt said, you'll revisit this again next month to review, see if you have any changes. We'll make note of which had 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 in case you want to have that up for discussion later as well. I'm seeing a hand. Supervisor Shirley, do you have a question?
No, I'm good. Thanks.
Okay. Any questions or other conversation folks want to have? Otherwise, Administrator Witt said I had an hour and I knew you all weren't going to take an hour. You're very efficient. You want to get out of here. You can invite me back anytime. I'm very efficient. I get folks out on time.
Good. Thank you,
All right.
Allison. We appreciate your help.
Thank you all.
Okay, and as I said, this will be the beginning of this process, so we'll keep this rolling. Okay, now we'll go on to our adjusted agenda. We're actually going to move on to what was number 2, a resolution amending the purchasing policy. Do we have a motion for that resolution? Supervisor Counter?
So I'd make a motion to amend the purchasing policy as been redrafted and presented to the admin committee for approval.
And do we have a second? Second. Second, Supervisor Fiedler. Who would like to, our admin chair has left us for the day, so who would like to? Dustin?
So we had to revise the purchasing procurement policy. The big thing was we have to look up federal funding sources. So any vendors that we pay with federal funding, we have to look up on sam.gov. So that was the main reason we revised this policy. And then in addition, we just kind of cleaned up some copy in some areas and then referenced some documents that we need to fill out for like new suppliers. And then reference where our tax exempt is kept on our bridge, on our internal website.
Any questions for Dustin? Any discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on the motion to approve the resolution. That motion is passed unanimously. Thank you. We're on to our next business item, the resolution approving text amendments to the Town of St. Joseph zoning ordinance. Do we have a motion for this resolution?
I'll make the motion to approve the resolution.
Supervisor Anderson, do we have a second? Supervisor Van Summeren.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Discussion. Supervisor Counter?
Well, with advice of the Corp Council, I'd like to make a motion to amend the resolution by adding the following language to line 21. As long as the Town of St. Joseph complies with Wisconsin Statute 59.69 sub 9. And maybe we can get some help with the reasoning. Thanks.
Yeah, could we get a second? Supervisor Leaf, thank you.
And so 5969(9) is entitled Zoning of County-Owned Lands. And what that section indicates is that the county board may by ordinance zone and rezone lands owned by the county without necessity of securing the approval of the town boards. So the concern was that these text amendments would require the county to follow certain procedures that the town would require of lands that are located within the Town of St. Joseph. And speaking with Supervisor Counter and Community Development Director Jason Cheeseth, we discussed that this statute allows for the county to do things on county-owned lands within the Town of St. Joseph without following the procedures set forth in the Town of St. Joseph's zoning code. Obviously, we'll still be good partners with them, work with them, but this would affect Homestead, Eckert Bluff lands, and the Loop. And they were all zoned prior to the Town of St. Joseph opting out of county zoning, so therefore we're not required to secure their approval if we were to do something on those properties. So this additional language just clarifies for the Town of St. Joseph that they shall follow 5969(9).
Discussion. Does that make sense to everyone? So the motion on the floor is to amend the resolution, adding on line 21 reference to, did I get this right, 5969? Okay. Any further discussion on the motion to amend the resolution? All right, seeing none, we're ready to vote on the amendment. And that motion passes unanimously. Thank you. So now we're back to the original resolution as amended. Do we have any discussion, any comments, questions? All right, seeing none, we're ready to vote on the original resolution as amended. And that motion passes unanimously as well. Thank you very much. We'll move on to our next business item, resolution requesting the state of Wisconsin to increase funding for circuit courts. Do we have a motion? Supervisor Leaf?
I move to approve the resolution to request the state of Wisconsin to increase funding for circuit courts.
And second by Supervisor Fiedler. Would we like some explanation on the resolution? Who would like to?
I think the simple resolution is that right now, the state of Wisconsin only pays a fraction of what the costs are for us to maintain our circuit courts. And this resolution follows the WCA general resolution that would encourage the state legislature to expend $70 million more on the circuit courts of Wisconsin. And that would have the result of equalizing the costs that the counties pay and the state pays, saving us a lot of money.
Questions, discussion? Any questions? All right, seeing none, we're ready to vote on the motion to approve the resolution. And that passes unanimously as well. Thank you. I wish they were all that easy. Okay, so now we're back to, I think that concludes our business items for this evening. So any requests for future agenda items? Supervisor Otino.
Yes, I requested a future agenda item last month, and it never got to our agenda regarding having CASA give us the presentation, brief presentation, may I say, regarding the caseload that they have and their fundraising.
We have that scheduled for January, Supervisor Otino.
Thank you
We're
very
just
much.
waiting for year end, and he'll come and do a
Oh,
year
thank you.
presentation.
Thank you much.
Yep.
I kind of figured there was something. You weren't just ignoring me.
We try not to. Supervisor Adams.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to hear something about what the citizen brought up regarding the zoning issues by the Amish community. I think we need to at least hear a little more in depth here from the county's view, what is or is not happening, and how we can provide support to those towns and townships accordingly.
Yeah, that probably should start out at community development. But I think that as a result of those discussions, we should make sure that comes back to the full board. Is that acceptable?
Yes, that's acceptable, hopefully no later than maybe the February meeting at the latest, just to give time and get through the holidays and all that. That'd be great. Thank you.
Any other requests for future agenda items? Okay, the one thing I will mention as far as future agenda items, we are anticipating that in the January board meeting, we hope to have a presentation by Xcel Energy regarding their proposed solar farm, so that we're all educated on that project. I know I'm starting to, and I imagine everybody else is starting to get a lot of comments and concerns from constituents. So we've got that slated for January, assuming they're willing to come. And then also for our February board meeting, we're anticipating having a presentation by the Rail Commission regarding their plans for light rail or passenger rail to come through St. Croix County, connecting Eau Claire and the Twin Cities. So I think it was time for us to get a handle on what that project is and what our involvement is, so that we're educated on that issue as well. Any other announcement? Yes, Supervisor Otino.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Regarding the Xcel Energy, do you have the knowledge on, everything I've heard is that they've got a huge amount of land. They're gonna put the solar panels in, and then they're gonna send the electricity to Minnesota, is what I've been told. And I can't believe that. You know what? I don't wanna believe that that's the possibility. And if it is, I think everybody should be aware of that. Thank you.
Go ahead.
It may not be fact.
I was just going to say, since it's not on the agenda, nobody can talk about it tonight, but it will be on future agendas.
Right. We can't, it's not on the agenda, so we can't really discuss it in any detail, but.
I can't tell you the answer.
Just got to hold out for a couple of weeks. Supervisor Adams.
Thank you, Chair. So there are articles out there of a similar scheme, I'll call it, in California, where they have huge solar arrays and that energy is going to other states. So there are articles out there that already talk about this. Highly recommend we look at some of those and come armed accordingly. Informed.
Okay. Right, we'll talk a lot more about that in January. Okay, any other announcements?
Shirley.
Oh, Supervisor Shirley.
Yes, I just wanted clarification. Which meeting were you saying? Was it January or February that we're talking with the Rail Commission?
The Rail Commission is slated to be February.
February. Okay. That is great. I don't know if everyone has heard, but similar to what we were talking about in our last meeting when we were talking about federal coordination, this rail commission has received $500 million grant to move this forward. So just so everyone knows.
Okay, any other announcements? Okay, well, all I can say now is I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Please stay safe, enjoy, and we will see you next year. It's 6:34 and our meeting is adjourned. But I remember you were talking about